All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to organizational behavior. This is going to be module 2. We'll talk about that in a minute. The overall theme, of course, of organizational behavior is why do people behave in the way they do at work? But before we get into everything, I want to kind of bring everything into focus for us, just to kind of tune out everything else so we can kind of focus on what we're doing today. So before we move forward, I want you to take 45 seconds. Relax, put your feet on the ground, close your eyes or open your eyes, whatever's most comfortable to you. And I want you to notice your breathing for 45 seconds. If you feel your mind starts to wander, that's okay. Just bring it back into focus, return to your breathing. And I want you to do that for 45 seconds, pause the video, and then go ahead and press play when you're done. Okay, so hopefully that went well. Hopefully you're nice and centered. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. Now we can kind of focus on the task at hand. So everything we do has a reason. And whenever possible, that reason should be informed by evidence, even in the workplace. And we'll get back to that and what we did kind of at the end of our lesson today. So what are we going to cover today? So this is module 2, chapter 1, and it's video 1. Length of the video is about 15 minutes. With the exercises, it might be 20 or 25. And then we'll have a video 2, and I'll talk about that at the end of the video as well. So by the end of this video, what do we hope to accomplish? I want you to be able to define organizational behavior. I want you to be able to distinguish between the 3 levels of organizational behavior, sort course topics that we're going to cover into those 3 levels, and then explain why workplace problems might not just be one level or one thing. So that's what we're going to try to accomplish today. So what is organizational behavior? There's probably many definitions. This just happens to be the one from the book that we're using. And it says the study of the actions and attitudes of individuals and groups toward one another and toward the organization as a whole, right? So, and we want to be able to use that information to understand how and why organizations, groups, and teams and people work together, explain what's happening, predict what will happen, and then improve over time. That's the whole idea of organizational behavior. So the big question, right, that we were talking about was why do people behave the way they do at work? And it's not just people, right? There's kind of 3 levels in organizational behavior and in this class that we're going to look at. The first is at the individual level, right? For example, why does one person thrive and one person just burn out, right? In the team level, why does one team click and the other team just fall apart? And at the biggest level, at the organization-wide level, how can 2 organizations that produce the exact same thing be completely different? So starting with the individual level, this is a painting by Samuel Joseph Brown. It's a self-portrait, and this is going to signify as we move forward the individual level of the organization. This is going to be the art that is going to signify when we're talking about group or team level. And this is Katsushika Hakusai, painting of people climbing up a mountain. We'll talk about that. And this is the painting that's going to signify organization-wide level. And this is a painting of a small town with some trees and hills. And you can definitely see a factory within this town. So although OB is kind of one field, organizational behavior, there's really 3 lenses that it looks through. The individual level, me, you, the group level, us as a group, the team, and the organization, the system as a whole. So we're going to start with a little painting exercise to kind of get an idea of what these levels hold within them. So a look at the individual level. So we're using this painting again by Samuel Joseph Brown, this self-portrait where he's looking in the mirror. I want you to imagine that this person is your coworker. Doesn't matter what he looks like or who he is, but imagine, keep in your mind a picture of somebody. What might you need to understand how they behave and their attitudes about work? What would you want to know about the individual? Right? What I want you to do is pause the video for a minute. Just think about that for a second. Think about that question about what would you want to know about that person that's coming to work with you to understand how they work and their attitudes about work. And then we'll get back together in a minute. All right, so hopefully you've had a chance to think about that. And I've got some things on this next slide that in organizational behavior uh, that kind of covers the individual level of OB. And there are things like personality, right? What kind of personality does this person have? Are they gregarious? Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they intense? Do they like detail? Do they like high level information? What gets them excited, right? What are their values? What do they hold dear? What's important to them? Their perception, how do they see things versus how you do? What are their attitudes about work and life? What motivates them? How do they learn better? What is their emotionality like? And are they stressed or are they relaxed, right? These are kind of things that OB and you might want to know about somebody that you're working with to determine how to work better with that person. Okay, that's the individual level, but what about between people? What happens in groups or teams? So in this one, we've got the Hokusai picture of people climbing a mountain, and there's different teams doing different jobs climbing this mountain, right? So what would you need to understand about the relationships among these people? What's going to help them climb the mountain, or what's going to prevent them from doing so effectively and efficiently and safely? So I want you to pause the video for a minute again and think about from a group or team level, what do you want to know about the groups or the teams that would help you understand how successful or unsuccessful they're going to be at this task of climbing a mountain, much less anything anybody does for work. All right, so we're going to come back now. Hopefully you've come up with some of these. These are some things in organizational level, at the organizational behavior at the group and team level that signify we're looking at these things, right? You want to know what roles these people are. Who's going to be the belayer? Who's going to be the climber? Who's going to be the safety person, right? What are the norms? What are you supposed to do in these teams? What are you not supposed to do in these teams? Communication. Do we have anything that we use to communicate with one another, either technology-wise or shorthand or something that we use to talk to each other? And what about trust? How do we trust each other? Is there a leadership on this team? Who's the leader? Who's the followers? How do we handle the conflict? How do we coordinate with each other to make sure we get up the mountain? And how do we use our influence to maybe tell somebody we want to go this way up the mountain versus that way? The same thing works in any organization or team, right? So hopefully these are some of the things that you came up with as well. Now, from a global level, right? What shapes behavior even when no one person controls it, right? There's so much more going on here. So now we're talking about the organizational level. And this painting, the Julian Alden Weir painting of the factory village, right, kind of shows there's this town, there's this organization there, there's this factory. So imagine you work here, right? What features of the larger system shape your behavior and your attitudes about working in that organization? Again, I want you to pause for a minute. I want you to write down as much as you can think about things that impact you as an individual from an organization standpoint, and we'll come back. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to do that. These are some of the things from organizational behavior at an organizational level that kind of signify this larger level, right? So the structure of the organization, the culture of the overall organization, the hierarchy, where do you fit? Where does your boss fit? What are the policies that you have to deal with? Do I get any rewards for working here? Do I get paid? Do I get benefits? Do I just get kudos? What technology are we using? What happens when things change? And what's the environment that we work in? All of these things will affect the groups and teams and everybody in the organization about how the work goes. So this is kind of the semester map. And as you see throughout the semester, you'll see these pictures. And when you see these pictures, you'll know, okay, we're talking about an individual thing, we're talking about a group, team construct, or we're talking about an organizational construct. So keep your eyes open. And even in the alt text reader, if you have trouble seeing, you'll see the same alt text for these pictures pop up on slides that signify where we are. So we're going to do another activity now. I know you've just seen them, but try to use a little recall. So here, what we're going to do is I want you to sort these concepts into what you think, whether they fall into individual, group, or team, or organization level for organizational behavior. Take a minute or two, sort them as best you can, and then we'll come back together. All right, so hopefully you've had a chance to sort them on your own. And I have a slide here a couple of slides where I've sorted some of these myself. So Individual, right? Stress and well-being, motivation, individual and cultural differences, learning, perception, and job attitudes. These typically fall under that individual category. For group and team, hopefully you've had some of these. Conflict and negotiation, leadership, communication, work teams. These are the things that generally fall under that category. And then finally, hopefully you had some of these in the organization category, which are organization-wide culture, power and politics, diversity, and structure and change. Now, you might be saying, like, maybe I didn't get them all right. And that's okay, because these are not boxes, these are lenses. And lenses sometimes kind of cross over. Sometimes we can be talking about something, and as an individual, or in the group team lens, or in the organization lens, but they don't quite fit there wholeheartedly. An example of that is what you see here on the screen is communication. Communication can kind of, actually, it could cross all three. I have it here in individual and group team, but they could be how one individual communicates, or it could be how the group communicates. Leadership could be all three. How do I, as a leader, interact with everybody? How does the leader lead a group or team? And how do the executives lead the organization? Stress and well-being, right? That's very individualistic for each person, but the organization and possibly even the group team can impact the stress and well-being of the individual. Same thing with power and politics. Really, that's not so much an individual thing. But, with the organization and group and team together, how do those things work to affect our work? So as we go through the semester, you'll see that some of these things do cross over. So I want to create a scenario based on stuff that we've learned so far. Okay, so let's say turnover in your organization is rising. It's up in one department, but why? Let's think about why that might be. So there might be one problem, but there's actually probably multiple possible causes, right? So I want you to take a couple of minutes and I want you to think about what things in the individual, group, team, and organizational realm might be causing turnover in that department in your organization. So go ahead and pause, write some stuff down, and then we'll come back. All right, so hopefully you've had a chance to write some things down. Here's some of the stuff that I have in each of these areas. So on the individual side, why might people in my department be leaving? It could be just job attitudes. People just don't like job, right? They're stressed out. There's no motivation. Maybe they just don't fit with that job, right? What about the group and team level? There's the supervisor relationship. Maybe I have a bad relationship with my supervisor. Maybe there's conflict in the team. Communication just isn't happening and people aren't talking, or information's not being passed down. Maybe the team norms are just weird for me and I don't like this and I want to remove myself from that situation. And how about the organizational level? On that level, it could be the organization-wide culture just doesn't fit me. Maybe I don't get paid enough. Maybe my benefits aren't good and I can go somewhere else. Workload's too much. Maybe I don't like the policies that I have to work within. All of these things and more can impact one thing that's happening in your organization. So that's most of what I have for this lecture. We're going to move on. But before I did, I want to go back to, remember how we started? We started with kind of centering ourselves and taking a couple of minutes to clear our head. So why did I do that? Well, there's actually research out there. It's a very powerful piece of research. It's a meta-analysis, which means an analysis that looks at a bunch of other analyses and it combines them all together and kind of takes evidence from all those and says, we're building basically some research here that says that there's actually something going on. And it's not just one small study. This link is actually in Canvas if you wanted to look at the entire study. But mindfulness can improve cognitive skills. It can improve sustained attention, working memory. So it actually has been found to improve those skills, and it's a good idea to maybe practice if you get a chance and if it's something you like to do before you start a task. So that's why we started with that today. And what level is this? It's on the individual level. Only you can do this skill yourself or practice this thing, the mindfulness yourself. Of course, if the organization has a program, that would help too. Oh, let's go back. So just a quick check on yourself. Without looking back, what are the three levels of organizational behavior? Can you name them? Name one course topic that primarily belongs to each level. And what might one workplace problem require explanations at more than one level? So I want you to think about this before you move forward. And if you can do that pretty quickly, you've mastered this part and we can go on to the next. But if you're having trouble, I would watch it a little bit more, read the chapter, and think about this again. And then once you know you got this down, you know you can move on. So that was video one. What is organizational behavior? We got a map in the field and continue to look out for these paintings, either hear it in the alt text or see it visually, and you'll know kind of where we are. For video two, we are going to talk about why we work, what managers do, managerial challenges, and why behavioral science for organizational behavior. And before our live class, if you haven't already, make sure to complete the discussion introductions on Canvas. Read chapter one, that's also linked on Canvas. After this video, make sure you watch video two. And for class, just come ready to apply these ideas. That's all I have for you today, and I look forward to seeing you in our live session.